Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take Me Off Your List. I am ignorant child that has never learned anything about something, and we're here today to admit it. That's part of what this podcast is about me growing as a person and growing a lot to know more about marketing. And I shamefully told our guest today that I need a lot of help. Everyone say hi to Cody Schneider. What's up, Cody?
Ryan, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
He knows what I don't know, and I'm going to talk about what we're going to talk about today in a second. But Cody, do you want to tell people what you do at Swell AI?
Yeah, totally. So we're a content repurposing platform powered by AI. So give us long form content. We chop it up into clips, social posts, blog posts, newsletters, any type of content that you can imagine. Our whole thing is we're obsessed with like content marketing workflows. So we're trying to basically make it so people can make all the content they need for all the channels they're trying to do marketing on from like a single source file. So that's kind of our core competency. And we're just starting to get into social scheduling. I'll talk about this too. But basically like this whole workflow piece of you made a piece of pillar content. I'm trying to get it everywhere. And that's the platform that we're building is to facilitate that.
All right, it's confession time, everyone. If you're driving, stand up. If you're sitting down, or if you're standing up, sit down. Whatever the opposite is to be more dramatic. As someone that has a pretty good following online, especially on LinkedIn, I don't know how to do anything with Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok, or whatever the kids use today, Snapchat, MySpace. I I feel like I just basically syndicate content on there. I talked to someone earlier today about this. I was like, it's like I'm Larry David. I make episodes and put it on NBC, but then to syndicate Seinfeld and other places, I don't do anything. I just have it sit there and do nothing. I want to walk away today with a better understanding of like how to use the other channels and stuff, if that's cool with you. And you, Cody, you guys do that for a
100%.
lot of people, right?
Yeah, totally. That's kind of like one of our wedge into the market was like podcasters. We're starting to work with like people that do webinars and fireside chats and some like coaches and stuff too. But our core focus was like, hey, we're basically using the podcast as a vehicle to make viral moments, and then we clip that up into all of these short form pieces of content that we can put, across all of these channels. And I know we'll talk about this, but every social media channel is turning into what they're calling for you page content. So it just shows you content that it knows is most likely to keep you on platform. LinkedIn is doing this along with every other one of them. And there's all these techniques around that we can employ and use to kind of optimize based on that change.
I saw a article from TechCrunch last night. It was 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I opened my phone and was like, oh, I'll just check out the old TechCrunch to see what's up. And they're apparently making a whole video feed feature part of their mobile app now, where it'll just auto feed videos to you from the news feed on LinkedIn. Let's talk about the other platforms. So you talked about creating viral moments. Maybe we should zoom out for a second and kind of start with like, hey, how do you make your podcast content not stupid? Let's start with making good content, and then we can go into how to distribute it.
Yeah, that's great. So first off, with all good content, you're trying to find a cross section between two things. It's educational and entertaining, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're too far on one side of the spectrum, there's two things that happens. If you're too educational, nobody stays and actually consumes it. And if you're too entertaining, nobody buys the thing you're trying to sell. So in the B2B world, you're trying to find that context. So with that framework as how we're thinking about this, then from there, how do we create consistent pillar content that's going to be both educational and entertaining? The best way to do that we found and is the most consistent for brands is you have experts on that know something that you don't, exactly what the show is.
Uh-oh, they're going to
off.
see what we're doing.
They're going to see behind the curtain right now. And then what you do is you basically capture all of that knowledge and you turn that into all of these different forms of media wherever your target customer is, right? So that's really this whole model, this whole playbook is we take expert knowledge, we get as deep, and really all we're doing is like, these are conversations that we would have behind closed doors traditionally, right? Like I did some work in the medical space and forever ago, this is 4 or 5 years ago. And this is something that we found to be a huge thing. Like traditionally, like you want to go talk to a doctor, there's $450 out of your pocket. He doesn't really give you any information. But if I go and I talk to 20 different physicians and put them on a podcast and ask them all of these deep knowledge questions related to their, like to what they know, what you're going to see is that there's a huge audience that's ravenous for that information. That they want to consume that. And so for every brand, it's figuring out that angle, right? What is that thing that your target ICP wishes they knew and wants to consume? And then how do I present that to them in an educational and entertaining way?
It stinks because like I got to see, I'll be transparent with people. I got to see a lot of this with luck doing sales video content when LinkedIn first launched LinkedIn video. And like now everybody does it. So it's like, it's a little bit harder to do, I think, compared to what it was a couple years ago. But how do you stand out today? Like, what the hell do you do to get, like, you make a podcast, but you have that guest on, if they're not pushing it or promoting it with you, like, how do you get new eyeballs on it?
I love this question. All right. So the big thing is, like, first off, you got to get the vibe right with that person. Like, so with everybody that I'm talking to, I'm like, yo, you a lot of times, like, do an intro call just to see if this is even going to make sense for your audience, right?
Yeah.
The energy has to be there, and like that person has to bring that energy if you want to create these viral moments. The other piece is like expertise is now more valuable than ever before, right? Like the cost to produce average content has gone to zero with AI. And so if you are, know more about hotel marketing than anybody else in the world, this is the current, like right now, you've become more valuable than you were, 18 months ago. Because if you go and you ask the AI, hey, write me 10 different, marketing strategies related to, we'll say auto dealerships or something like that, it's going to write a very average piece of content. But in contrast, if I go and I interview 5 different experts in auto dealership marketing, and I take those transcripts, I put it into a context window, and then I'm like, hey, now write me an article based off of this context that I provided you. What you're going to see is the output is so much better than what you could ever get the AI to just, one shot with from its own knowledge. And so I think that to that point, like, what you're looking for with these guests is like, who is somebody that is in public talking about things that's already getting traction in the world?
Yeah.
And how do I just go and get them on a show? And most of the time, if they're talking in public, like 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, hell yeah, I want to come on your show. Absolutely, I'll come there, because they're already trying to do personal brand or what, they have something to sell. So it's this symbiotic thing. So I get asked this so often, like, how do you start one of these? How do you get going? I'm like, first off, that your first 5 episodes, interview customers that you already have, and just talk to them about their business, put those out in public, email it to like your whole list or whatever that you have. And if you're really starting from zero, you can actually even grow podcast newsletters. And I'll talk about this in a second. This is something that like we've been doing on outside of Swell. That's honestly so crazy. But anyway, so with that though, if you just include in the newsletter, like, hey, like we want guests on the show, apply here, you'll get so much inbound that all your job turns into is filtering, all right, who is going to create the best piece of media and create the most viral moment. So that source material is the most important piece. Making clips after that is easy. It's like, find me hooks, find me insights from this episode, find me hooks related to those insights, find me supporting like ideas for that hook that I just found. And like, if you ask for 10 insights, you got 10. Now you have 10 clips that you can schedule out to your social media scheduler. That's
perfect. We did do an episode in March about creating a podcast from scratch. I think that part of the wizardry of what you do is like, you've got a whole process to get in front of people. What are you using to get the clips when you're using AI? Is that Swell? Are you like, you can't, there's character limits, obviously, what you put in ChatGPT. Not that I've ever used that. What are you guys talking about? What? Right.
I love it. Yeah. So we use like a combination of softwares all stacked together. And this is how we're seeing more and more of these models be used. So finding like a model that does everything that we want is pretty hard. Training a model costs a couple million now. It's getting cheaper and cheaper, but that's like kind of the base level to like fine tune one of these off the shelf models. So there's all these ways that you can kind of like, I don't want to say trick, but like get the AI to do the thing that you're looking for. So if like clip identification as an example, we use this model that does what's called like identity identification. Don't quote me on this.
Born identity
identification is a way above my pay grade. We worked with some guy out of Oxford that did this. It was like his thesis on linguistics was basically like taking a huge transcript and identifying all of the like ideas within that transcript. So first we do that. And then we say, okay, like what are insights from this episode? and like what's the category this is in. So say the category is digital marketing, and then we say, okay, go find insights related to digital marketing within this transcript. And then we cross-lay that over, and we're like, cool, where are the insights and the ideas crossing over? And now let's create clips from those moments. And then we'll try to remove the content, like the sections that don't provide any like value. So like maybe there's a hook and then there's like a sentence that, it's just them kind of rambling in a direction, and then the actual value comes after that. We'll try to do that removal. But in this way, what we can do is we can basically find a cohesive idea, find a moment that's going to hook a listener, and then also find that supporting material. And with all this, like we're in the early stages, like every company that's building this stuff, like it's not perfect yet. I will be the first person to say that. But what we found is that most of the time we can get it like 90% of the way there. So then a human comes in over the top and they're like, yes, no, that's their whole job. It's not it's not listening down to a 50-minute episode and trying to find those moments like, oh, I can at least have a jump point to start from. And then the other pieces of this is then we layer on, okay, we can do active speaker identification. So say you needed in a portrait, but it was filmed in landscape, we can automatically clip based on who's talking. So say the host asks a question, the guest gives a response, it'll do that clipping between them. And if there's crosstalk, it'll stack the people on top of each other, right? We had captions over the top of that based off of the AI transcription that we made. And, all of that, traditionally, it's like I would have to go hire a video editor. And if it's US based, 150 an hour. And if it's offshore based, it's 35 an hour or whatever to create this. And now I can just do this with these tools. So
let's talk about the clips. And so you're using AI to help find some of these clips and stuff. How the hell do you work it so that people see it? Well, how do you start on zero if you're throwing something up on an Instagram or throwing it up on TikTok or syndicating it maybe on Facebook or X or Threads or whatever the hell you're using these days, or YouTube Shorts are really popular right now. What's the deal? Like, do you just post and hope, or is there like little things you can do, like create a prayer circle with a bunch of candles?
Yeah, we do a seance and a live goat sacrifice every time we post. No, the thing that we have seen be the most critical, it's kind of three components. It's the consistency of publishing. Are you consistently doing something that's in a category so that like the channels know what type of content and what type of people are most likely to interact with it? And then also, are you looking at your data to see what's working and then doing more of what's working and less of what isn't, right? So let's talk through each of those. So that's kind of the base version of this. And then I'll talk the pro version right after this.
Okay. Yeah.
So with that base version, when you look at for just posting consistently, like why is that working? The channels, how they make money is the more time spent on platform. So if you show that you're investing as a creator onto the platform to make content, and that content even gets some amount of views, you're providing value to YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, etc. Right? So by posting on a daily basis, you're basically signaling I'm here to invest in this, and they're going to reward you for that within the algorithm. Simultaneously, when you do something that's consistent, it starts to understand, hey, when this person posts, this account that we know that posts consistently, when they post, people like this are most likely to stay on platform longer. And as long as that media is similar, like it's always about digital marketing, it's always about, ketosis or health, it's always about some type of category. What the channel will learn to do is basically who is going to be most likely to consume that thing. And then by looking at the data, that last component, what you can see and what we see is like, if I post, 30 videos, right, across whether it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, any of these For You page content places, what we're going to see is about 10% of them are going to go more viral than others. If I just look at those 10%, so 3 out of, the 30 go viral at a standard deviation higher than the rest. What do those 3 things have in common? They're going to always have some like common thread or common idea. You go back to your back catalog, you find more clips like that or more ideas like that, or you just remix the clips that went most viral, use the same hook, but have a different supporting like idea. And that is how you get this improvement, this growth flywheel to happen. From there, before we move on to the pro version of that, like any questions around there, I'm happy to dive deeper. I know I've been
it's funny. I remember when I was at Lead IQ, I read Contagious by Jonah Berger. Have you read that?
Totally. Yeah, it was
Um,
forever ago, but
there's like so for people listening, there's this book that Jonah Berger wrote. He basically used his position as a professor at the Warden School and got a bunch of students to do research on what makes things go viral. And they like tracked like tons of things that like got traction and what was the event that led to it. And through the dissection of many events, they basically found like different things you can do to get something to catch on. It's interesting because when that book was written, the primary way that people discovered stuff was actually offline. Like you would go see a double rainbow video on YouTube and you'd go to the person next to you at your desk and be like, did you see that double rainbow video? You should check this out. And then you go search the keyword double rainbow on YouTube and see it. And that's how that became the top viewed video on YouTube of all time at one point. On Thursdays you would see something or Fridays you'd see people watch Rebecca Black Friday because the trigger would make them think like it's Friday. I'm
it
going to
still
search
happens.
Friday.
If you look at the Google Trends for Rebecca Black, like that video, the Friday video, every Friday it always spikes. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah. So like all these things that would happen offline. The thing is today, all this new generation of user that's on these sites is getting fed stuff automatically. They're not exploring on their own. You talked about dissecting what content was in those clips to get things to go viral, and we're doing the amateur level, not the pro level first. Does stats matter, like listen through rate or talk through rate? Like what things matter on that end?
Totally. It's really the consumption. It's the playthrough times. Like how many times did they rewatch the video? It's shares, it's engagement, it's comments. Like basically it's just like, again, when you think about why do these companies exist, right? It is to monetize the attention of users. So whatever you can do to get more actions to happen on that platform from a user that's watching your video that you made, the more you're going to be rewarded for that, because that's how they make money, right? Like Facebook is fighting sleep at this point.
Yeah.
Try to get as much of your attention as possible while you're in your waking moments so that they can sell you advertising space. And like as a creator or a brand or, anybody that's creating content, that is what you're trying to do, is you're basically trying to provide them with this user generated content, the content that you made, to create more and more staying time, like more and more dwell time on that application.
To put a bookend to this, I mean, I'll give you another example. Years ago, decades ago, Google was investing in a self-driving car. And people are like, why are you investing in this? What's this have to do with anything? And like their whole vision was like the average person commutes 45 minutes a day. When they're driving, they're not searching. They're not consuming
100%.
YouTube. We lose. I mean, if we can get people on our
Netflix made games, man, because it's why all these companies, their whole, like how they make money is they're basically owning a portion of your time, and all of those companies are fighting for your attention, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you realize that, like as a marketer, this becomes very easy, right? It's like, how do I make things that, again, have that cross section of like, I'm getting as much attention as possible, but also making as much business impact for my brand as possible. Because like, I'm not, and this is the constant debate. Like, do you want to be huge or do you want to be like, have 10,000, like, and the monetary way to visualize this is like, okay, say you get a million listens, right? But the average buying power of those million people is only $1. Now contrast that is like, I get 10,000 listens, right? Or streams or whatever. But the buying power of each of those individuals is $100,000, right? Which one is more valuable? Of course, that buying power, that's like fewer people. And this is something that we need to think about with our company. Like a lot of the times what I'm optimizing for is like, does this make a sign up for my brand? Does this make top of funnel for my brand to get them further down in that the purchasing decision process? Whatever that is, we're trying to relate this to some type of revenue generating activity. The goal isn't get as much reach as possible. It's get them closer to a revenue generating activity.
I mean, it's like the old stand-up saying. They say when you do stand-up comedy, it's better to have 5 people that really love you and 5 people that are pissed
1,000 true fans
than have 9 that feel indifferent.
Totally. 1,000%. I think it's the same thing here. And like, for most people, like, these ideas are so simple that it's like, of course that's how it works, right? But it's hearing the packaging of like how they all fit together. I think that's the thing, like where the light bulb moment happens. So like, oh yeah, it's obvious, right? And like most things are so simple that it's obvious. Like that's when you get it down to its essence. It's just having that realization, like getting to that point where you're like, of course they want to keep people on platform. Okay, what content do I need to make for my target ICP? Say it's like, chief operating officers or whatever, right? What content do they want that I can create for them that will keep them on platform longer? And that's going to do two things. It's going to give me more free reach on the platform, and it's also going to create revenue for me. And then that like growth flywheel starts spinning, because the more reach you get, the more revenue you get. The more revenue you get, the more reach you get. And like it just goes on and on and on. So
all right, let's get to the pro level.
cool.
You ready for this? Everyone buckle up. This is if you're not a pro and you're listening to this, you might have to drop off. Anyone else that's listening, welcome. We know you're a pro. Let's do it, Cody. What's the next phase, the pro phase?
Cool. So you got it locked in. You've got a way to make media. You got it. You have a consistent theme. You're scheduling regularly. You're looking at the data, et cetera. So you can then layer on paid ads and these tactics to basically grow these accounts faster and basically get reach quicker. So I'm going to start with Instagram. So you wanted to grow an Instagram account. So I discovered this when I was doing some work in the music industry. So my friend is he's a country music artist. His name's Cody. But basically what we realized is that like we could, if we grew his social accounts, we would get more streams. And if we got more streams, we could grow his social accounts. And it was this like, growth flywheel.
Yeah.
But how we actually did this is we would basically take videos of him playing songs, and we would do Instagram only ads of those clips with a call to action on the screen. Follow at Colby Acuff for more like this. That same call to action, we would add that in the description of the Instagram ad. And when you have the @ symbol in the Instagram ad, it's technically a hyperlink. So when the user sees the ad, a percentage of them click on that. They go to your profile, and then a certain percentage of them will follow it. And then it just turns into a follow funnel. But we've been able to get depending on the category, like I've seen followers at 10 cents a piece, right? So that's a way to prime this account so that it gets more initial reach. Now, every person that engages with that Instagram account, they then get basically, as long as you're posting regularly, the next time they log into the platform, is if they consumed any of your videos, they will get served content from your channel, right? Or from your profile. So you just get more and more touches happening with that person. So they get back into that. The other thing that you can do is anybody that interacts with your profile, so views the profile, looks at any piece of media on your profile, you can put them into a remarketing audience. And that same ad that you were running that had the follow ad, you just run that same thing, but to a person that's already interacted with you. So you can create this like step down funnel of people to get to interact with these accounts. Now, you don't have to do this for forever. But with Instagram, if you get to like 10K followers, what happens is there's this like magic tipping point that happens where you just start to grow organically, automatically. And so it's kind of just priming that account to get to that moment. On Twitter, it's get to 1,000 followers. And as long as you're posting daily, you're going to in a couple tweets a day, like 3 to 5, you're going to be able to do the same thing. I'll talk through Twitter in a second. That's we'll add that as a bonus.
I got to ask you a question, but I'm so worried you're going to lose your train of thought, because this is like, you're giving us the answers to the test right now. I'm going to look behind, make sure the teacher's not looking. Great podcasting. Because if you're just listening to the audio, you're like, you're stupid, right? I hate you. All right. Do you do this on LinkedIn? Performance is usually better on a person's account versus a company account. When you're doing this on other channels off of LinkedIn, like not LinkedIn, like Instagram and Twitter and stuff, should you be building the audience as your company, or is there an individual that works at that company?
Yes. As the founder, I would build your own personal brand as much as possible, just because it's negotiation leverage for media now. So like, why am I growing my own personal social accounts? It's because when I have Martin reach out to Ryan and I want to come on the Pitchfire podcast, I have social channels that have followers and engagement and all these things.
Yeah.
That I look legit, right? And that's what's going to create differentiation of all these people. Like, think about if I have a traditional PR agent reach out and it's some no-name CEO that's like boring and not engaging in any place at all. Like my, I come to Ryan and I say, hey, Ryan, like I want to come on your show. I promise to bring the heat. I will be entertaining for your audience and I will provide value.
He's doing it.
But also what I'm going to do is I have a newsletter with 20,000 subs on it. I have a Twitter account with 19,000 followers, and I have a LinkedIn account that's only at 5K. I promise you it will be at 25K by Q3. But I will do cross posting across all those if you let me on that show. And so that gives me this leverage point to be able to go and tap into your audience and get in front of your people. So that's like the reason behind this.
Yeah, it's actually very similar to like kind of like what businesses do with webinars. Like we basically say, hey, our email list has 20,000 people on it. We'll do this webinar if we share a lead list after. And then you high five and do a webinar together and magic happens. You're just saying do the same thing on social with these people.
Exactly.
Now, if someone has an audience that's on one place, and like, for example, like I have a pretty good following. I have 18,000 people that follow me on LinkedIn, but I don't have crap on Instagram and I don't have crap on Twitter or these other platforms. Does that matter, or do you not care? Because then you're still getting exposed to people on LinkedIn. Like, are people, or do you kind of treat it differently with your strategy?
Yeah. So if you asked me this question 2 years ago, I'd say focus on the things, focus on the places that the most buyer ready individuals are, because our bandwidth was constrained. Now with these AI tools, it's like I can be everywhere with the same media, right? Like I sit down for an hour conversation. I talk to some like cold email expert about, what are the things that they're seeing on the front lines right now. And that content, I can turn that into tweets. I can turn that into Instagram reels. I can turn it into everything. The way to get people across to these other channels is, it's pretty straightforward, right? There's two ways that I've seen it be most effective. One, get them on a newsletter list and then promote all of your other social channels across that newsletter list.
Are you saying dedicated promote, or do you mean like bottom footer like everybody does?
Bottom footer. The other thing that I've seen people do is like disguise within the newsletter that it's like they're promoting the Instagram. Like, hey, I published this thing on Instagram and went viral. Like, here's the key takeaway from the video. Like, you can watch the video here.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? They're going to go watch that video and then they're going to go follow you. Like, that's really what's happening behind the scenes on that.
It stinks because I want to tell stories, but I don't want to derail you. I'll give you a really good example for us. When we were at Lead IQ and we raised our Series B, we did a LinkedIn post announcing it. And then instead of emailing everybody the video and putting it in a separate place, we put it on LinkedIn. And that's where it flooded the congrats.
Exactly.
It made us come up on news feeds everywhere on LinkedIn for that day.
Exactly.
So like, you're saying do the same thing on these other channels.
1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%.
Let's talk about Twitter, or as some of the kids call it, X. Let's open up with this. This has changed a lot. I mean, I don't know about you, but my Twitter feed is just full of like weird 9/11 videos now and stuff.
Dude, it's absolutely turned into a cesspool, but there's so much.
There's still great threads on there. Yeah, there's still great content.
Yeah. It's great. I'm in the AI space, right? So it's like I'm watching demos. Like that is where demos drop now. It's
I saw that last week too with some of the stuff with like Google and some of the new version of OpenAI. Yeah.
Totally. And like it's some kid in the basement that like got this AI to run an e-commerce store for him, right? It's like, just crazy things that you just wouldn't see any other place. So like reason we're there, tons of free reach, and it's an unbelievable mechanism to drive newsletter signups, like for a personal use newsletter. So again, what you do, pick a topic or category. For me, it's like, I just talk about growth tactics and growth strategy, and maybe I like business ideas, things I stumble upon. In the last 28 days, I think the account got like 2 million impressions, but it drove 3,200 clicks, and it created around like 1,500 new newsletter subs, right? And I have a relatively small account, right? I have 19,000 followers. That's like nothing. But the thing here with this is that it's moved to For You page content. So all of these things have become a volume game at this point. Like what we see is if you post 10 tweets, one of them will go viral. And so what do? I post 10 tweets a day. That's like actually what I do. I sit down every Sunday.
10 a day. Wow.
I sit down every Sunday and I drink whiskey and I write 70 tweets and I schedule them out. And we see that again, if I can get one tweet to go viral a day, it does all the impact that I need for me. But with Twitter, to get an account to initially grow, you need to be posting daily. 3 to 5 is like totally manageable. pick a concept, some type of thing that you have an expertise or knowledge in. Like, for example, it could be cold email. It could be, anything that you know more about something than anybody else. And then you're just talking about that over and over again. So then once you've got your, week of tweets scheduled out, you're going to do that for like, we'll say 3 months. And that 3 month period, you can go and you can follow 5,000 people on Twitter. So that's the limit for like a fresh account that's just starting.
Yeah.
What we typically see, as long as you're posting regularly, is that of those 5,000 people, 1,000 will follow you back. And once you hit that threshold of 1,000, as long as you're just posting consistently, you will grow. You will naturally grow, or like organically, because these viral moments has happened. So same strategy we were talking about before. You post clips, you look at the data. What do the winners have in common? I go post more clips like that, and it creates that flywheel. It's the same thing on Twitter. I go to my analytics. I say, okay, which tweets got the most impressions over the last, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I measure them against each other. Cool. All the winners have these ideas in common, or here's the topics. Let's write more tweets like that and less tweets like the losers. And so that creates this flywheel. It's the same. All social media management and scheduling is, and when you're trying to grow, is this process. The best social media managers, this is what they're doing. The crazy part with this is I'm watching companies, they're about to automate this. So you're going to just plug into companies in the future. You're going to provide all your source material, and you're going to be like, cool, grow my Instagram Reels account. And it's just going to grow that account. Like, it's just going to basically optimize it for you automatically. But that's the Twitter piece. So I'm going to talk about how you can now take Twitter and then turn that into YouTube subs and YouTube views.
YouTube is something I'm very interested in because I think it's like, it's the most well-rounded.
Yes.
And I think it's on every TV. That's
yes.
the thing. Like, it could be, there's gonna be a point where you will just go on YouTube and watch. Like, it's already happening with the new generation of people.
1,000%. I just got sent a DM from somebody I didn't know that was watching a podcast I was on in their living room on their TV. And I'm like, my ugly ass face is up there. And this guy's living room with his girlfriend. Like, what? But that's the new reality that's coming. That's happening. So the thing with YouTube and how you can relate this to Twitter. So right now you can get insanely cheap Twitter ad traffic when you do universal targeting. I'm talking like 0.0001 cent link clicks, right? So it's a global audience that you're targeting, but you can drive traffic to this channel. And what we found is that when you introduce people to a YouTube channel, like get them off platform from another place onto YouTube, YouTube tags that user because they consume that content. And then the next time that they come back to YouTube, your videos start to show up in front of them. So I'm doing this for my friend.
So someone, a good example, someone sees one of your tweets that blew up at the end of do you do threads, or are you mainly just doing one-offs?
I just do one-offs just because I'm a volume game is my strategy.
Some people do threads though, and they get like, they'll go like do 29 tweets about something and get a lot of retweets. All right, cool. So you do something. A lot of the time people will have you're not putting a link in your tweet, right? You're putting
you can do that too. So the one I'm talking about just a second ago was with paid ads, priming a YouTube account with paid ads. The other way you can do this is like, once you get your Twitter account to like get reach, talk about a specific thing. So say you do a video and it's like I did this recently. I was talking about, $1 million business idea. You can start with 0 startup costs. And all it was like, here's how to use Google Looker Studio and do like Google Analytics 4, unlimited Google Analytics 4, like data analytics for website owners, right? Because like nobody knows how to use Google Analytics 4 and nobody knows how to use Looker Studio. And so then what I did is I wrote all these tweets that were related to that video and then included in the second thread of the tweet, watch the full video here. And it's just a link to the video, right? But they click off platform, they end up going to YouTube, they get tagged, and then it creates that flywheel. So there's 2 different ways to do that, right? You have the organic and then you have the paid strategy that you're implementing. But what we've seen is I can 0 to 1 a YouTube channel, where we have a podcast, or my friend's doing this with his company for his podcast. It's called the Biotech Startups Podcast. But they're going to get 1,000 subs in the first 2 months of running this campaign. And the total cost that they're going to put out the door to accomplish that is right around $250. And At that point, like they're one of the biggest biotech podcasts on YouTube in the US. So that's the game that you can play here with this.
So your when you say run ads to the YouTube, are you running it on YouTube or you're talking run it on other channels?
I'm sorry, I'm just talking running Twitter ads from Twitter to the YouTube video. And the ad is literally like uh interviewed my friend about blah blah blah, right? It's like a screenshot of the YouTube video, so it looks like it's native on the platform. Like it
Mhm.
looks like it's like a you know a photo of the video.
Yep.
And now with Twitter ads, that whole image is clickable. So what people think is like they're like, oh, this is like a YouTube video that's on Twitter. They click that ad, it takes them off platform to YouTube, and now they're on YouTube. They just interacted with it, and that's how you can use like this insanely cheap Twitter traffic. So again, I'm getting 0.0001 cent link clicks from some of this traffic, right? Like so, with $1, that turns into 1,000 clicks, right? And we see that, okay, 60% of those turn into views and maybe 5% of those turn into subs. And so then you can start to do the math there of like what's happening with that.
So
And
you
so
you justify it because you know that you're going to get subscribers. Subscribers, now
1,000%.
you're building your own soapbox to
You
work
got it.
off of.
You got it. And we're trying to get to that tipping point with all social media channels. It's the cold start problem, right? It's like, how do I get to that tipping point where like natural organic growth starts to happen? Every channel, it's different. Instagram, it's right around 10K. Twitter, it's around 1,000. TikTok, it doesn't even matter. You can have an account. Like as long as your content is good, it will go viral. Like that is the game that you're playing there. YouTube Shorts, it's probably like right around 1,000 subs. And then once you get past that 1,000 subs threshold, you start to see organic growth start happening because they're like, oh, you're investing in this platform. Like that's a marker within them for being invested.
Are you posting on YouTube Shorts on their own, or are you posting videos and then repurposing them for YouTube Shorts? Like, are you
Yes.
doing normal
Yeah.
videos too?
No. So right now, I honestly I haven't posted the YouTube Shorts in a minute. I was doing a test with it, and I need to hire a new social media manager to handle my own personal stuff.
Yeah.
But what we would do is like long form content and then chop those up into clips. Those clips go into YouTube Shorts, and then those YouTube Shorts you can actually have a related video now. They just released this like I think like probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, and you can link to the longer form video from that short. And so imagine I do a podcast, you have a viral moment, and I can take that short and I can link to the long form video. And so it creates top of funnel. So that short basically like drives traffic to that longer form video. And so that's this like tactical thing that you can do here.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. So you basically and shorts are how people are consuming stuff on YouTube right now with like the funny part is I'm old school YouTube. I'm like a lame like boomer dude like hanging. I'm not a boomer, but like I might as well be. I'm like horizontal video, baby. Like I'm like really lame. People
Long form content is the best way to sell people. Short form content is the best way to build top of funnel. So if you're trying to sell a product, right? Like
Yep.
if I can get them to watch, I mean, we're back to like early click funnels, Russell Brunson stuff, right? Like we're talking about a virtual sales letter. It's like why did Alex Hormozy just switch all of his content to long form hour plus content? This happened within the last 3 weeks. The reason for that is because they saw in the data that longer form content created better lead quality and more leads happening. So instead of doing the 10 minutes and optimizing for the most reach on the platform, they optimized for what was most impactful for their business. That's not to say that they're not doing clips still. The clips are ways to drive traffic into the longer form content, right? Because one viral clip, it will get, even more people to that longer form. It's also a way to resurrect old videos that are long form. If I get to pull out a clip and get it to go viral, I suddenly just brought a long form piece of content back into like it's a zombie piece of content. It just lived on again. And so it's pairing these things together, right? Thinking about them just like we would with traditional funnels. Like, oh, I do an ad, it goes to an ebook. I put them in an email nurture. Every person that touched the website, they're getting remarketing ads with somebody that's talking. In the email nurture, it's the same videos that they're getting remarketed to. It's that combination altogether, which creates impact. We're doing the same strategies with social here.
Do you do remarketing on everything, or do you mainly hug one channel more? Yeah, we did a lot of remarketing on Facebook back when I was at Lead IQ, but we didn't do like, I don't think I've done remarketing on Twitter or Google or any of the other places either.
Yeah. My philosophy personally is like, and just this is based off of experience, like how I've seen companies grow fast is they layer on marketing tactics like on top of each other, right? So it's like, okay, I went and I scraped all of my target customers' emails. I cold email every one of them. I take those same emails, I put them into Facebook, YouTube, or Google ads and LinkedIn ads,
It's a
and then I
custom
do a
audience,
customer
right?
match list, and then I'm
Yep.
doing display ads to all of them indefinitely into the future. Everybody that touches the website, I pixel them. So I write all this SEO content to get all this inbound. I pixel them across all those channels. I'm doing remarketing across all those channels as well. That same email list, I take that, I make a podcast. I grow a newsletter to that email list that's distributing that podcast. Those same people, I promote all the social channels in the email newsletter. So all the clips, they go to Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, etc. They end up going and following that. And then any people that interact with any of those channels, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, they get pixeled as well. And I'm running traffic on top of that. So it's like this whole, how I talk about it is like, and think about it is I'm trying to build digital gravity, right? So how do you build digital gravity? You build digital mass on the internet. Digital mass is in the form of content. So I'm making as much content as possible to make as much mass as possible. So I have as much gravity as possible, because the more gravity I have, the more natural inbound I get from the world. And that's actually how a marketing funnel works, right? Like we talk about this funnel where like people go in the top and then they come out the bottom and they make a purchase. Like nobody actually buys anything like that. That's not how it actually goes. What's really going on is there's like different moments in time that I'm closer to that purchasing decision, like in my rotation around that brand, right? So again, using this like planet and gravity analogy, the bigger that planet is, my brand, my business, I can get more and more people in rotation. And then at different moments in time, they're close to that purchasing decision. All I need to do is just show them an ad while they're like, close to orbit. And then they touch down, they turn into a buyer. As soon as I get more money from them, I reinvest that back into that whole like marketing strategy that I'm talking about, building out this content flywheel, building out this engine, running all these ads, doing more cold email, whatever that ends up being. And it creates a virtuous growth cycle.
Last question, and then we should wrap up because we've gone way over, and I feel bad. Really cool podcast episode. This has been great. This is why I did this podcast, because like I love learning this stuff. It's amazing. What kind of budget do you start with? Like, let's say I know it's people are gonna be like, it's based on your contract value and your margins and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, what kind of commitment should you be making on paid before you know it's going to work or not?
Yeah. I mean, for example, the Instagram growth thing, I've started accounts with $100 a month, right? And like we saw followers at X dollar amount, at what, 30 cents a piece. And we're like, okay, we're going to back into this number. So 6 months from now, we want to be at 10K followers. That means we need to spend X dollar amount to get to that 10K follower. So it's more like based off of the goals. But I think, it really depends on the resources that you have available. That's always the classic question. The better answer probably is like, whatever doesn't make you homeless, hungry, or not have healthcare, like that's what you're investing into this, right? And especially if you're like, a first-time founder that doesn't have other like income streams and sources, or you haven't like had your, your first big exit or whatever that ends up being. You're just doing that thing that's sustainable, because for most companies, like, I can't remember the data. I want to say it's like 90% of companies that make it past year 5 survive to year 20. It's just like, it's basically just, and this is really how business actually functions. Like people, when they think about survival, right? Like from a biological standpoint, they're like, oh, that person was better, so they won. It's like, no, that person won because everybody else died. That's actually how this happened.
That's totally true. Yeah.
And the same thing applies to business, right? So the biology of business is actually, it's just surviving longer than everybody else means that you win. So as long as you don't run out of money and you don't burn out, and that's why I always stress, especially on the content side, we see so many companies where they try to do so much so quickly, they burn themselves out in the first 60 days. You're going to feel no impact from that from your business. You need to think about, okay, what's something I can do for the next 12 to 24 months, every day, week, month, that I'm not going to burn out from, because I'm going to feel no impact from this thing unless I can do that in that long time horizon. And so again, it's just surviving longer than everybody else. Like that is majority of life is that as well. Like, you're trying to do like your career or anything. It's just like, can you outlast the people around you and this thing that's hard to do that sucks sometimes? And yeah.
I have one last question. I'm lying. I'm sorry. I just was thinking about this. When you're doing post for things that you're eventually going to use for advertising, maybe it's a boosted post on Instagram or something. Are you keeping the text heavy, or you're doing no text, very little text, and focusing on video? Like, what do you typically see works better for you?
Yeah. So I've seen two things work well. I've seen video, and then I've seen, like where they like screenshot a tweet and it's like with like the profile photo, the name, and then the
Yeah,
title,
yeah.
and then whatever the like, the core key takeaway is, and then like branded. Those are the two that I've seen be most effective. It depends on the audience. Like I've seen the one that I just described, like the tweet screenshot. I don't even know what to call that type of media, like the quote screenshot or whatever.
Native scheme.
Yeah, exactly. So I've seen that work, like for example, in healthcare, and then for
Mhm.
like anything, for podcast clips are going to work way better. Again, and music works way better. It's like, I would just test both of those. Like with all creative, test as many as you can. Look at the data, and say you test 100 different pieces of content. There's going to be 10% of them that are performing getting 90% of the impressions and clicks or whatever the goal is. And then just allocate all of your budget to those best performers. So often we see people and they focus on they're like, no, we have to talk about like these 10 different things that we're trying to communicate with our target customer. It's like, no, that's not the point of this. The point of this is to get as cheap as possible first touch traffic to whatever the thing is that you're building. Once you get them in, then you can explain all of these other different things. But you're trying to find the path of least resistance to get that whatever that is. And most of the time, it's like, I want to sign up to happen. I want some type of personal identifiable information that will allow for me to have a conversation with them indefinitely into the future, whether that's through an email nurture or whatever that ends up being.
If you wanted to have a personally identified conversation with you, Cody, about your product, where do we send them?
Yeah, so swellai.com. It's free to sign up. Again, that's content repurposing powered by AI. Reach out to us in the chat, tell them that I sent you, and we'll throw some extra credits on your account so you can have more to play with. And then most active on Twitter and LinkedIn. And those are the best places to get in contact with me.
Cool. Great having you on, Cody. On my end, if you're listening to this and you are feeling frisky, we're going to be adding a ton of people into Pitchfire. We're adding a couple thousand people every week starting in June. So if you want to go pay someone to respond to your prospecting and you work in sales and you're listening to this or you work in marketing, throw in a credit card, give it a try. Worst case scenario, no one responds to you and you cry in the shower and you didn't use any money. Best case scenario, you get a bunch of responses and you look like a boss. So that's it. Cody, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's been awesome being here.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Cheers.